Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. I'm doing a series of spotlights on remarkable business intermediaries and brokers from across the country. And I'm excited because joining me on this segment from Grand Rapids, Michigan is Kathy DeVries. She's the founder of Thrive Acquisition. Kathy, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mark.
Kathy, tell us a little bit about your work and specifically, what are the types of clients that you specialize in helping?
My work is to align with a client who's a small business owner involved in the day-to-day of operating their company and helping them realize what their preferred future is and whether or not their business can take them to that preferred future. So that could take any number of forms. It could be getting into business, it could be getting out of business, transferring the business, generational transfers, or transfers to employees who show promise in continuing the company.
So, the inspiration for this whole series is the whole great resignation that's been in the news, and so many people leaving the corporate world to go off on their own. And we know that buying an existing business is much safer route than being a pioneer and coming back full of arrows. So, what have you seen in your area? Has that been true? Are there more buyers now? And has that also motivated sellers who've been on the fence thinking about selling? Because it seems to be a prime time.
Yes, if you look at the demographics, there will be a number of people in every category that will be looking to transition their business within the next 10 years. This is due to the number of people hitting the retirement age. And it's also due to the fact that a lot of people right now are experiencing quite a bit of wealth, especially in the West Michigan area. And they're wondering why they're getting up and working so hard when they've got enough to start that retirement early, or perhaps invest in something larger or try something new. So a lot of people, a lot of sellers are ready to dip their toe in the water of seeing whether or not there are buyers for their business. And we're finding the buyers are well capitalized, they're eager, they're ready, they're looking for deals. There's a ton of competition for the larger deals, things that might be 5 to 20 million in revenue. But the smaller businesses they're considering, because if they do enough acquisitions, buyers can actually assemble a business from scratch just by doing roll-ups in a given industry.
So, folks that are considering selling today, I bet you they've been in business a long time, and this is probably the first time they're even going through the process. So, they don't even know. Maybe they've sold their house before, but they've never sold a business. So, what kind of questions do they ask, knowing what they don't know? Because usually, when somebody buys something or tries to hire a professional to help them, and they don't know what to ask, I think usually the first question is out of their mouth is like, "Hey, how much do you cost?" Because they don't know what else to ask. What kind of questions do you get from these new sellers?
You're absolutely right. A lot of sellers think that it's like selling a house, where if you put it on the market, it's on the MLS and all the information is hanging out there for the world to see. And you'll be out in a week or so with an offer in hand, and then you just start the transition phase immediately. That's really not true at all for business transitions. With business transitions, we usually spend a month or two just preparing for even setting the price. It's a lot of back and forth. What are your competitive advantages? What are your strongest strengths? What are your worst weaknesses? And with that, we get a strategy together. Price is part of that strategy, but the bigger part of the strategy is figuring out who would be the best buyer for your business and where do we find them. So for buyers, or for sellers, I'm sorry, when they're asking, what do I need to know? What I tell them, what you need to know is that this is a process, and we have to work the process in order for you to actually attain that offer in hand so that you can get to your preferred future.
And what's interesting is a lot of people don't really consider that, unlike selling a house where you want to get it on the MLS and let everybody in the world know that it's available, with a business, you want to keep it actually confidential because that can sabotage your business. Your customer base can freak out, your suppliers, your competitors. You don't want anyone to know that you're selling. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And in today's world, we don't want employees to start looking for other work. They might get very anxious about the fact that their company is selling. They might not be comfortable with that at all, and they might move to a competition or just leave unexpectedly because they become a little freaked out over the idea that they might have a new boss soon.
So along with the lack of knowledge from these sellers, and they must have a bunch of, they must do a bunch of googling and get a bunch of misinformation or mixed information. Do you hear any like misconceptions or myths that they repeat to you that they think is about selling their business? What are some of the big weird things you hear?
A lot of sellers get all their information from the internet, and they're taking information from enormous companies and trying to apply it to their little main street operation. So they think that they think they know how to calculate seller discretionary earnings, or EBITDA, which is how we determine cash flow in a business. They think they know the multiples, and they think the multiples are 10 or 20 times cash flow, when the real multiples are like 2.5 times cash flow, or maybe 4 times cash flow. So they're misinforming themselves because the information that they need is not out there. So the difference between selling a house and selling a business is that houses are commodities, whereas businesses are truly unique. So the same two businesses, one might have opportunities that the other one doesn't. And that scalability factor might make them truly worth 3, 4, or 5 times more than the one that's just kind of out there, but not really poised to go further in the future.
Kathy, what inspired you to get into this field and help sellers match with buyers and businesses? How did you get started?
Well, I'm a second generation business owner, and after a long career in my family business, I decided it was time to make an exit. And I thought to myself, I wonder what you call this. And so this was in 2011, and I was trying to do the Googling that other people are trying to do as well. I didn't know the vocabulary to Google with at that time. And so I one day an email came across my desk, and it said, "Do you need an exit strategy?" And I thought, yes, I do. And so I called that firm, I hired that broker, and it was such a positive experience to have someone tell me, this is what you do next, and this is what you need to be ready for, and here's what that means. And to just arrange the entire process, lay out a plan, have a strategy, and then work through that exit process. When I did exit, that broker invited me to work with him, and that's how I got in this business.
Terrific. Before I ask you my last question, Kathy, is there anything that I didn't think of asking that you feel is important to share for someone either selling their business or buying a business? What didn't I think to ask?
If you're going to have an advisor work with you, you really want someone in a fiduciary capacity where their outcome is aligned with yours. Too many business brokers or financial advisors, they're maybe not licensed, they're maybe not educated, and perhaps people are hiring like a residential realtor to walk them through this complicated business process. And nothing against residential realtors, but they may not have the grasp of the complexity of buying and selling a company, and they may not be the best advisors. So find someone in the transition space that advises others, and it will be well worth your while to have that guidance through the process.
Great insight. Thank you, Kathy. For folks listening right now who would love to speak with you if they're considering selling their business, or somebody looking to buy a business and they want to connect with you, how do they find you and learn more?
They can find me at thriveacquisition.com. They can email me at info@thriveacquisition.com. And beyond that, they can also look me up on the ibba.org broker site, where they list all the business brokers who serve this industry. And I'd be happy to talk with them and would welcome any conversation. And even if I can't help these specific people, I will put them in touch with someone who can.
Kathy, this has been terrific. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you so much, Mark.
That was Kathy DeVries, and she's the founder of Thrive Acquisition. This segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.